Welcome into the DePaud, a DePaul Hoops podcast brought to you by Home Field. Go check out homefieldapparel.com. Gear up for this basketball season coming up in less than 20 days. Go to homefieldapparel.com, pick up hoodies, t-shirts, and hats, all with Blue Demon logos, throwbacks, you name it. Great quality. Homefieldapparel.com. Use promo code DePaud at checkout on your first order for 15% off. That's homefieldapparel.com. On today's show, we've got DePaul Vice President of Athletics and Athletic Director DeWayne Peevy, and we talk about a whole slew of things from realignment to the upcoming season to Friday's event at McGrath-Phillips Arena, which was Blue Madness, followed by a women's exhibition versus Lewis University. So definitely try get in there and get over to that event. You'll hear more about that from DeWayne in a few minutes. But with that said, let's jump right into the show.
Look to his shot.
Spins, fade away. Yes, sirree! Chandler hits the three.
Oh, tough shot. Giving it up to
Reed. Welcome into the DePaud, a DePaul Hoops podcast brought to you by Home Field. Go check out homefieldapparel.com. and use promo code DePaud at checkout for 15% off your first order of brand new DePaul gear. Get you geared up for the season and ready for the first few games of this Holtman era for DePaul men's basketball. On today's show, like I said, we've got DeWayne Peevy talking all things DePaul athletics, from basketball to our track stars that have made a name for themselves, Noel Malkamaki and Darius Brown. But yeah, it's a really great conversation with DeWayne as always. I always like to have him on. I always like to keep things short around his interviews because he offers so much, and he gives me a lot of time. So we're getting close to basketball season, less than a month away. A lot of excitement around getting into the Holtman era. Players are ready to go. There's exhibitions, scrimmages, things like that happening soon. And it's time, if you haven't already, get out, get some tickets. If you're not a season ticket holder, start figuring out what games you want to get to, because it's a new era. And while we've said that before in the past, it really has teeth this time. The coaches, the players, the athletic department, everyone, fans, there's already a buzz. And it's a buzz because it feels a lot different. In the past, we've talked about, okay, there's a new coach. Here's what he brings to the table. But aside from Oliver Purnell, there really hasn't been a coach like this since Ray Meyer, even Joey Meyer. There really hasn't been a coach like this in leading the DePaul men's basketball team. Chris Holtman comes in, proven. He did it at Butler. He did it at Ohio State. He knows how to recruit. He knows how to develop. And developing players is going to be key even in this portal era. And that's what's different. The coaching staff, the know-how of basketball, the proof that they could do it. So the season has that different feel. You hear it in everyone you talk to. It's a culture building year. Will they be the best team on the floor night in and night out? No. But they're going to be the fieriest, the most hardworking guys that leave it all out on the court. You could see that. You'll see that as games start being played. When the chips are down on the table, these guys are those blue-collar, lunch pail, hardworking, I mean, it's going to be different. There's going to be a change in how people perceive DePaul basketball. So, I won't wax poetic anymore. We'll get into DeWayne's interview. We could talk more about how this team looks after an exhibition. There'll be more to talk about. So with that being said, let's jump into DeWayne's interview. All right. Welcome in today to the podcast, DeWayne Peevy, DePaul Vice President and Athletic Director. Welcome in again, DeWayne. Thanks for coming on.
John, just excited. It's been a while. Thought you forgot about me, but it feels good to be thought of again as we get close to starting up another DePaul basketball season.
Yeah. So, I want to start with that. This Friday, we've got Blue Madness, the official kickoff to basketball season, in the newly renovated Sullivan Athletics Center and McGrath Phillips Arena. Can you talk about that upcoming event here?
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Here we go, October 18th. Obviously, doors open at 6:30. We have a 7 o'clock event. Last couple of years, we've been trying to do an event outside, but with all the renovations and completing phase 1 of our capital campaign project, we thought it'd be a great opportunity to plan for our fans to come into the newly renovated McGrath Phillips Arena and see some of the things that we've done in the Sullivan Center. And so we're building a lot of things around it. It's alumni family weekend for those that are DePaul grads as well. So a lot going on campus. But we'll start out, do an hour, everything from 3-point shootout to all the introductions using our new video board. And then we'll finish the evening with the 8 o'clock exhibition between Lewis University and our women's team. And so something unique. Our women's team hadn't played on campus since I've been here, and thought we'd add that element into it. They have another exhibition game that is at Wintrust, but we thought, hey, let's throw an exhibition game to campus as part of our Blue Madness event, so it should be a fun night.
It sounds exciting, and it's a little different to have the women's exhibition that night. That's a pretty cool little twist to it. Any sort of surprises in the realm for Blue Madness?
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting my briefing tomorrow on what's going on, so I'm kind of anxious to know. I got my son's football game, at St. Francis. I gotta be pushed to what's going on behind the scenes too. I actually went to watch the men's practice last night at Wintrust to get a little bit of my feel. I'm going to go watch women's practice here this afternoon. But I think the biggest thing you got to think about, on the men's side, you got 14 new players that maybe a lot of people don't even know. And on the women's side, half of our team is new too. So 8 of the 16 are brand new on the women's side. So you're talking about 22 new players. If you didn't come to the season ticket holder event, or if you haven't been on social media just kind of keeping up with it, be a great introduction to not just those student athletes, but the season ahead. And I think it's just been exciting from them. So we won't make the women do as much this year in the first hour since they got a 2-hour exhibition afterwards. But I think the men will have a lot of fun getting ready to get geared up. And our guys are really excited. We got to get started with, some of the exhibition play and things getting started with them. They won't start as early as the women with Lewis, but they'll be getting started. They're ready. I talked to a couple guys last night. They're really ready to play somebody else. And so I think it's going to be exciting just to see the ability. People, haven't had a chance to watch a practice or anything like that. Maybe some of our media got a little bit of time on media day last week, but I think it's just really exciting to be getting to this point. I saw the AP poll came out today. They didn't rank DePaul, so we got work to do, right, to get that happening. So that's one of my goals that I'm ready to do. I'm ready to check that box to rank DePaul, but it starts with just getting it going, getting game 1, winning our opener, and starting a run in the month of November, and then let the rest of the season play its course.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of excitement around the program on both ends this year going into the season. But let's back up and talk about that. You had a busy summer, started off a little earlier than expected, with the coaching search and everything. Since the last time I had you on, there's been a coaching change. Just real briefly, what about Chris Holtman and him coming into the program excites you maybe differently than your first hire?
Well, I think part of it is, one, I know DePaul a lot more. 6 months into the job, you're making a change during COVID. You don't have any established relationships. You don't have the equity built up. You're trying to figure it out in a landscape that is totally different than we know now, right?
Yep.
Obviously, going after it and having a chance to have 50 days to get a search done versus a short period of time helps too. Being able to meet face to face, sit in homes, visit with coaches, visit with coaches' agents and things like that you couldn't do in the other process to really, it's already a speed dating or speed networking for somebody you're going to marry, basically, but limited it even more because of COVID makes it harder. Not saying it changes the decision, but it definitely changes who you can get in front of even, right? Your pool. And I think for us, just being equipped from a standpoint of having, board of trustee relationships, lockstep with your president and where we're trying to go and what we were going after. Looking for an experienced head coach that had won games in the NCAA tournament and that was ready to not just, all right, turn this thing around and get us going in the right direction, but have a finished product to it. Those are the goals, but you never know how it works out when we talk, kind of during the search process. But I think for Coach Holtman, somebody that I had watched a lot in this transition from Butler to Ohio State when I was in Lexington. Being a Lexington native, you're always, Cal always had some overtures from the NBA. So I had to kind of have my short list and trying to watch the up-and-coming coaches because, just kind of who fit into that program. And he was somebody I looked at because he had made that transition, from Gardner-Webb to Butler to Ohio State and had success early on. And so I've watched a lot of his offense and his efficiency and kind of how they did things, but not, what I'm seeing now, behind the scenes and how does it get to that point? And I've enjoyed the structure of it, the plan that's in place. We talked a little bit last night about some of the goals of how they want to play in the style of play, the system piece, what do they look at preseason, how they hope it unfolds. That's exciting, right? Just to dig into it because forget like even my DePaul time. Let's go back to my Kentucky time. Having a start over team every year because of the young people and the opportunity for a bunch of one and dones that might come into our program, or the fact that Cal had to be teaching defense from day one, more basics and teaching kids how to play because they might have had 30 shots a game in high school that we had to count on. It's a little different in this approach, even though they're all new. You've got 10 transfers that have played in pretty significant games of basketball that come in with a little bit of different mentality. You've actually seen college tape. You know how they play. You couple that with the 3 freshmen. It's just a different approach because we're just going into it. You're almost in mid-season mode on the things you're teaching and how quickly they pick things up. I'm greatly confused at practice. And I've been in this 25 years. I usually can get the concepts pretty quickly, and I'm usually upset, and I see when somebody's going to make mistakes. I'm a little confused right now, and I'm actually very happy that the young men in our program are not the same level I am. They get it. Like, they're communicating, and they understand it, or at least they're fooling me. They look like they do. Or they got teammates that can show them the way. That's just not the experience I've had before, but just because of the depth of experience, of college experience on this team versus what I've seen before. And so it's exciting. I'm obviously see us. We're a very talented group. Guys can pass, dribble, and shoot. I mean, it's a lot of it. But I'm anxious to see us play against somebody else because it's hard playing against yourselves. We can be very good offensively, but it could be because we can't play defense. Or it could be very good defensively because we can't play offense. We really got to see ourselves against some other teams. But I'm very excited. And on the women's side, we have a lot more depth of talent. Our numbers have hurt us in the last couple of years, even going back to when Anissa was here. We were very short on numbers because of injuries or other things. The fact of being able to have a group that we can get back to being kind of who we are, being able to press and have a lot of different options of scoring, not so dependent on a few players, is something I haven't had a chance to really enjoy in my time here. So I'm looking forward to that. Our freshmen are really talented. We have 6 of them. We have 2 more transfers that come in that have a chance to play significant minutes, along with, the 8 returners where, a good part of them are sophomores, right? They haven't played as much. And so it's a really new team on both sides and 2 totally different makeups. And so I'm anxious to see what happens this weekend, under the lights with people there for the first time, how excited they'll be. But also looking forward to the season getting started pretty quickly.
So let's go back to the point about Coach Holtman and his experience at other places. How much has that changed in the college landscape? A football oriented school to like a basketball only school like DePaul. How much has that changed and kind of thrown off the balance of power potentially?
I think, when I went out in the search process, I used that as an asset. I was selling to Power 5 coaches. Why don't you come to a basketball school? Select your own basketball athletic director. Be at the top of the food chain when it comes to everything, including NIL and rev share if it comes. Because where you are right now, no matter where you are, you're going to have a shared situation. I don't care if you're at the Duke, Kansas, Kentucky, or anywhere else. The football piece is big because that's what's deciding the conference realignment. That's what's deciding if we can afford it. The CFP monies is the big, cash cow that's supposed to be coming in and feeding everybody. Where are you going to fit into that? And as I talk to a lot of people, I start finding out that their situations weren't as good as what I thought it was. Right. And I don't know where people are this year, but where we are as a program, even from an NIL perspective, is better than a lot of coaches I talk to. And they were all in the Power 5. I talked to a bunch of non-Power 5, but the ones in the Power 5, a lot of them were either doing all that fundraising themselves or dealing with the struggles that the limited funds they have are all shifting to football to try to make it work. And that's just the nature of the business. There's no knock on anybody, but at least gave me a pathway to come in because all the conference realignment and transition, all the athletic directors that are retiring or moving on, gave me an opportunity where, hey, there's going to be some transition. Pick your own transition. Make your transition to DePaul. And, one of my early conversations with, Chris, and, that kind of picked up and resonated right away. Obviously I could talk to him a lot different situation than other candidates because, he was a free agent as early as mid-February. And so the conversation get a lot deeper, but he was one that I targeted from the start, and kind of weathered the storm. I reached out to his agent as soon as he was let go to say, hey, that doesn't deter my interest, but I'm going to give him some time because that's something he probably didn't see coming. And that allowed me to go do some other homework and then come back to Chris. And then that's when it kind of got hot and heavy to see what he wanted to do. What is his transition? Does he want to get out of coaching because that's in play along with other jobs we're starting to open up as we start going down the finish line? Because when I started, I didn't have competition. I was just out there spreading the good joy of DePaul and what we're going to bring. And, hey, I'm meeting coaches and representation for the first time, selling them on what we could be and how they can be a vital part of how we get there. And I think it just aligned. And I think, I've been very surprised. Chris has been great to work with. He's probably an over communicator. I kind of tried to, figure out, do I got to push for more communication or kind of laid back? It kind of works pretty easily, right? We went a long time of kind of talking or texting every day. We've got past that at least. But now we have a regular meeting, but we also just kind of can talk about things. It's just pretty easy because he's kind of a homebody. If he's not in the gym or spending time with family, or he's out recruiting, or he's on the road doing something like it's really tied into the job. Neither one of us have the time to play golf, but we probably would if necessary, but we don't really have the time for it. But it does allow it because, as much as he's had really good relationships with his athletic director, this probably feels a little bit more like Butler, being a Big E school where, now Barry, the AD there, was actually a coach. I'm not quite that, but like the interest level that the athletic director has is probably a little different than its experience at Ohio State just because of the magnitude of the place. And so we got a lot of things to get doing. I think when I wrote the note about building this brick by brick, it kind of resonated to him because we're doing it together. And our conversations are now about big picture things and next step and making sure we're aligned on where we're trying to go. So that way I'm really focused on what his needs are every day. But, not just a new student athletes, but a whole new staff pretty much too, outside of a few people. has made it a long off season. It feels like we've been working at this for so long because there was no downside. There was no downturn. We had about 10 guys by the time the Final Four rolled around. Right. And so like great group of guys. I think our fans will really enjoy their energy and their effort. I would say these guys, I've been around basketball a long time where you really got to try to get guys to just play hard and be like, this group just comes with it every day. Right. And a part of it is there's no gimmies, right? They don't know who's starting. The ball is out there. People trying to prove themselves. But they bring energy and effort every day. And so they actually can start working on all that other stuff too. But they've had a long summer. Even Teo, he's kind of got caught up to speed now that he's been here quite a bit of time, being the last person on board. And I think we now have a lot of moving parts. We've got guard depth. We all, every team in America can use one more piece. I don't know what it is right now. But until we kind of figure out our rotation and who's our go-to people, we'll play a lot of people. I see a lot of people that have earned the right to get on the court, and I'm anxious to see. I'm glad I don't have that job. Yeah. I just get to cheer it on every day. But I do like the amount of talent we have as far as, putting the ball in the hoop, especially from a shooting standpoint. I felt like there was a lot of times last year we didn't have enough guards on the roster, let alone they could put out there in the court. And we could put 4 and 5 guys on the court at most times that can shoot from outside, which is kind of a new game, kind of look and feel. And I'm just I'm anxious to see how that plays out against the competition.
Yeah, and I think, it's where basketball seems to be heading across all levels too, more focus on the three and putbacks around the rim. Busy summer, a lot of stuff has happened. You've hired a new men's basketball coach, a new softball coach, and then you've done a lot of the renovations in McGrath Phillips and Sullivan Athletic Center. Finally, a couple weeks ago or a week or so ago, Alderman Knudsen gave his public support of the project to build a basketball-focused practice facility along with a bunch of other aspects that'll help student athletes and students in the DePaul community. Can you talk a little bit about that process, peel back the curtain a little bit, and fill us in on what's next for that?
Yeah, I mean, it was, Alderman Knudsen has been a great partner in this. If you look back 2 years ago, it's when our alderman at the time stepped down, and it kind of slowed down the process. We were pretty close to getting some alderman approval. We had worked, about a year to get to that point. It was actually 3 years in October of 3 years ago from now when we actually took it to the first Board of Trustees subcommittee to talk about a feasibility study in October of 21. And so we got around to August of 22, and we were really in this same interval of trying to get approval at the time. But then when Michelle stepped down, it kind of put that on the back burner, trying to have an interim. Then there was an election. Then, just the whole process of restarting it under a new alderman, which, I understand it. Maybe at the time I didn't know that's how it works, but now I understand the process. I didn't think I'd have 2 town hall meetings and different structures. But looking back on 2 years of really talking about it with our neighbors, our partners, our campus friends too. Obviously, President Rob, came on board 2 years ago as well. So like a lot of changes were happening. But now to get to this point, from a partnership standpoint, it's kind of the right way to do things. Maybe in the future, this wouldn't have took as long because we just had a lot of different intervals that we couldn't control. But I do feel like it was time well spent because there's nobody that doesn't know what we're trying to do. There's nobody that understands the reasoning we're picking our location. You don't have to agree with it to some degree, but I think, what we were able to do from a partnership standpoint, the planned landmarking of other units, the community givebacks and things that we have already done and will continue to do, but things we've added that are important to other people, but also maintaining the partnerships on campus that we can provide. In our facility right now, obviously, is not even losing one court that brought about this, but it's really a focus in having a nicer venue where we're pretty much kind of tapped out from our own teams on use of the facilities. I mean, we have our practice times where just men and women's basketball and volleyball have napped out 9 hours during the regular part of the day,
Right.
from 9 to 6. But then the after hours are for individual opportunities for guys and girls to get up shots, for softball cages to be down, for hitting, for volleyball to get workouts in too. And so this leaves very little time for give back to campus and community.
Right.
So this new facility obviously opens up a renovated McGrath Phillips Arena to be more available, because you take men and women's basketball out of that equation, man. And they're the ones that are here pretty much all year long outside of 3 days for Christmas.
Right.
So the next steps for us is getting, things through the city council, and the fundraising aspect, really sinking some teeth in that. We've had some initial gifts from the momentum of the Alderman announcement that we hope to announce soon. But that's the biggest help we need, is if there's people out there, alums that have been disconnected and want to kind of help us in the foundation of the ground floor, this is when we need you the most. All right, this is the time to help your alma mater take that next step, or the place that you've been a fan of your whole life and didn't even go to school here, or don't even live in Chicago anymore. Like, everything still matters here. Like, whether it's $100 or 100,000, it makes a huge difference at DePaul. And it's going to be some fun when we get down the Blue Demon Challenge again here, at the beginning of the calendar year. Hopefully, we're finalizing that last push to be able to break ground. There are things that will help us break ground in June, but that's the plan. We got fundraising initiatives, some goals we have to meet to be able to break ground in June of next calendar year, which would be the earliest we could at the end of the school year. And if that happens, we can walk into a new building in fall of 26, which is just crazy, because this has added a whole lot of elements. This phase one, locker rooms for all the sports teams for the first time in school history, a new recruiting room, a new weight room, a new recovery area for all sports, renovating the training room that we have now. And the gym itself has been a huge plus. But we still have the space issue, especially sharing it with our campus and community, that we really can't share this as much. This next step will allow us to really expand with a nutrition area for all our sports, actually offices for marketing, communications, things of that nature, really raise our level. You saw Seton Hall's ready to open up their new building in January. St. John's has got something slated for, I think, the spring of 27 to open. We don't want to be the last ones, right? And so we need to get ahead of that, because we're competing at the highest level. It's made a difference already in our Olympic sports. We've been able, you mentioned Coach Liz earlier. She's been able to get verbal commitments in the 26 and 25 class just based on the facility piece and having a locker room, things they never had. Same things happening in both men and women's soccer. I got to meet with a volleyball player that traveled from out of the country, that basically one of the biggest reasons of commitment was she was here when our grand opening and just couldn't believe the facility pieces. So it's having that effect already for the 4 sports that compete right here every day. And it's doing the same thing, track and field and tennis. I can only imagine what it's going to do when we add the second phase of this to really ratchet up what we're doing. It just gives up some, major athletics, opportunities outside of just, what you can deliver by actually being here. And I think the attention that it can bring back to our overall campus, because that's the biggest piece. It's an investment by our campus, to be behind us in this initiative. And we need to produce some return on that. And I'm excited to start that up as early as this year.
Yeah. And to even get to that point, you and your team have done a lot of work building those relationships across the university. Can you kind of go into a little bit about what that was like and what was there when you got there as far as relationships go, and what, obviously now having 2 men's basketball alum on the board of trustees is a huge aspect to getting that message of what basketball and what athletics can be for the university. Can you go into that a little bit as far as what it was like, and then where you are today?
Yeah, I think some of the challenges was because when I started, we're in COVID, right? So I did a lot of Zoom conversations, but it's not like I can meet new people just generally.
Right.
And But I think part of it was one of the scariest things for me coming into this job was I'm following my predecessor who's been the athletic director for 18 years and been here 40 plus, right? There are going to be relationships that I don't have just from the start. So then you throw COVID on top of it. And then you walk in and, then you make a coaching change before you even get to a non-COVID season, right? So you walk into it, you're like, how do I create these relationships? And it's really just diving into it, being authentic, obviously moving to, where we have two former men's basketball players and, Malik Murray and David Booth that have joined the board of trustees each of the last 2 years. Added Mark Aguirre as a special assistant to the AD to join Kevin Edwards, who's already on our staff, and moved him to more alumni relations focused role. Those were things in the men's basketball world piece that were very crucial too. But I think really, if you think about it, it was really just, allowing our staff turnover change where we all kind of went out there and tried to be better campus partners and community partners. So really, I have 8 of my 10 deans at our school are new since I've been here, right? But, not just meeting with them and say, hey, this is what I need from you, but like, how can I help you? It's kind of where I felt like we landed, Taylor Stapleton and we just kind of like that first year and a half was like, okay, all right, I want to meet annually with the staff council, the dean's council, the SGA, faculty council, president's cabinet, joint council. We're going to meet with all these groups and just make sure everybody understands why do we have athletics, why are we in the Big East, why do we need to invest in athletics to be a better university and a community partner. So that way we could get past that piece. Now we still talk about those things, but not as in depth because now we're talking about how we can move the needle and we have some results to get behind. But I think it's just about being intentional about it. I have the thing I'm launching now this month. I have 2 new advisory councils. One is an athletic director advisory council where it comes with some level of giving to be able to be in that, where I'm looking for more people that have a network that I can expand into from business partnerships, people that have, been successful. How do we take this to the next level? And then another one that's just a basketball council for former men and women's basketball players that really want to help us kind of just get our basketball and the whole basketball family back together, right? It kind of needs to start with a family reunion of some type, but then where do we expand from there? And there's no giving component to that. I really just need them to help me with a little bit of friend raising in those roles, right? And I've seen it, I had to do that at Kentucky where you go in and you've got a coach. And here we've had several coaches since Coach Meyer was here. The same thing was when I was in Kentucky. You got several different coaches, even some that won national champions. And even though you tell everybody they can come back, if their coach is not there, it's not the same level, right? At least on the women's side, Coach Bruno, everybody knows I can call Coach Bruno and I know I'm welcome back, but you can't really do that with Coach Holtman or even Coach Stubblefield before, right? There's usually just so many inundations of that. So just trying to be intentional about that and put more things into it. But I think that's what things that brought about reinstituting the Hall of Fame, starting the jersey retirement piece. Those things will come out of conversation. So I'm anxious to see what I get from both of those council groups that goes along with, our athletics subcommittee of the Board of Trustees and our University Athletics Board, which is a group of campus partnerships, faculty from every school that we have student athletes. Those pieces, those are all my surrounding things that have really helped expand kind of just how we've reconnected with people to know what we're all about. And our biggest things now, if anybody's listening, if you're definitely a community partner, whether you're a corporate sponsor with us now or really just want somebody to connect with, we're trying to get a community partner to connect with to get more people access and availability to come to Wintrust, right? We want a partnership with that. We don't want to just give tickets to some organization and tell you to come. We want somebody to be connected with. That might be part of your experience, but we might be talking about a long-lasting partnership that might end up being camps, or it might end up being some educational experience. It might be some opportunity for our students to come do some things with you and your company, but it also might be some internships for my students, depending on what those things are. We're trying to get more connected with the things that are important to Chicago. And so those bigger organizations that are looking for somebody to partner with, and not just a corporate sponsorship, but more, we're looking for that opportunity. And that could mean some more things that we will do with your company or group, or, to start on the ground floor with us, right? And as we grow, we might want a corporate sponsorship on the back end, but it's going to be worth it to you because you're going to want more of that access. But we're just looking for more things like that. And so that's kind of how we met. we started talking about like two people that wanted DePaul to be successful came together and started talking about things before you even created your podcast, right? And so look at us now. Look at us now, right? We can't even talk to each other on this because you got so many other guests, right? So I think that's the opportunity I'm looking to expand. So I need more DePauds across America, right? So we can give a chance to really grow this DePaul Blue Demon family to be what it deserves to be.
No, yeah, I think that this year there's going to be a lot of more DePaul fans coming out of the woodwork, especially just with how the team's going to play versus previously. So another thing we kind of touched on realignment, and I know that some of these conversations might fall under privileged, but what do you foresee the Big East, or what's in your view the route the Big East will take or could take with realignment?
Well, I think the unique thing about the Big East is that, on one end, on the football piece, right, we're non-football playing schools. Outside of UConn being FBS, we don't even have anybody else in FBS at all. So it's unique. But we're also a lot different than, say, the group of 5 schools that do have football that are not in the Power 5 conferences. So, you got to kind of figure out where you want to be. If you want to be the best of the rest, or, because that's kind of felt like where we have been from the non-football playing schools. We're kind of the one everybody wants to be in. But we also got to stay connected to that group enough because they take basketball schools with them too, right? The majority of them. And there's other people like the Gonzagas are joining those groups. Pretty much everybody's going to be in there. So we got to make sure we're in that party. The good thing is that our results in the last so many years make it kind of hard right now to separate us. But when we look at the next 8 years, if we don't have 4 championships like we had in the previous 8 years, how connected are we? We can't have other years where we got 2 teams in a tournament, even though we should have had 5 or 6. We got to actually have 5 or 6 teams on a minimum basis to where there's not a true championship without Big East, right? And then obviously, UConn's going to have some overtures, right? I mean, they've got a different thing to fix. Dave Benedict and I have been friends for a long time. He was a deputy at Auburn when I was at Kentucky, and he's got a different set of circumstances, right? Because he's got an FBS football program and he has to feed on top of the other things. I mean, they're really good at baseball. Obviously, they're really good at men and women's basketball. They got all other sports. They even got hockey. I don't have all those different things. But for them, it's going to be, do they have an opportunity to get in one of those leagues? And that's always going to be something. But as you saw before UConn and after, we got to know that that's an outlier, but it's worth it to us right now. All right, we'll deal with all the angst because having UConn a part of this is special, right? But also, we got a lot of other teams. 2 of those championships in the last 8 years was Villanova, right? Who's going to be the next team that jumps to the forefront? Because 3 years ago, nobody was talking about UConn like they're talking about them now. Right. So, it could be somebody else, right? And this is hard. And I think, as, Coach Hurley said during the tournament run, iron sharpens iron, right? And so we're looking forward to getting to that conversation ourselves where we're not this outlier that just cashing a check and not putting anything forward. But I do think as going forward, we always got to be looking to what can help us. We need to read the tea leaves and be ahead of it versus reacting. And I feel like we have a group of, conference leaders in our ADs and with Val and Vince in the commissioner's office. I think we have a group that we're constantly discussing what's the next step for us, right? Obviously, there's several schools that would love to join us, but what's the real value of that? It's not about getting to a 12th school. It's not about, hey, what makes our TV deal just a little better, a little bit of money in our pocket. There's a lot of other factors that go into that. And you got to understand, in this day and age, you can have a SMU that doesn't even take money to get in. You can have, so you can't outrule anything. But I think we've got to be ready for, if, UConn moves, do we want to do anything? Because it only just puts us at 10. Do we expand beyond 12 if we have the opportunity? Because we can. But just figuring out what's the best for us. And I think next summer, starting our new Fox deal, partner with Turner, having the NBC piece, with Turner, with the TNT piece, that's going to be interesting for us. A whole new thing that we're already getting a little bit of a Peacock games this year, where that expand, that's ever changing. I think we're in a very good position. And I think while I was out there in the coaching search, I felt it even more. People want to be part of the Big East. You can get some of the best coaches in the country want to be in the Big East. I think people feel like it's a safe place from the stability piece because the football thing's not dragging us everywhere, right? We've got to pay attention to it with the NCAA house case and all that, but it's not like I don't want to go to bed at night thinking I might be in a different conference tomorrow or, the whole conference left us. And I still think there's a little bit of stability. I'm seeing that in my staff hires too. Like people just don't know where they are or where they're going to be. And I think that's a thing we need to protect. I think we're a really good, close-knit group of family. As we're seeing turnovers, we're seeing ADs retiring, we're seeing presidents leaving. We've got to be able to keep that stability, and I think that's why Val's done a great job of being that stable piece in the last 10-plus years. What does the next 10 years look like? And, I've told her that, although I've only been here 4 years, I think I'm maybe the fourth highest tenured AD in the league now or something because so many people left. But I want to be a part of that leadership of how it goes forward in the next 10 years too. And so I think we all have that mentality and we kind of work together. So the new faces, most of them understand what they're getting into. And I think it's something to protect. But I think we want to be a leader in that conversation versus reacting to what's happening. We have no choices. And so I think we'll continue to be proactive in that. And that's a choice. And it still means the proactive thing might be, okay, this is not the time or we don't have the team or the school that we're trying to do. But as these teams change and move around, who knows what's left for us?
Yeah, I agree, and I think that it has to be calculated, and it has to be the right opportunity for the Big East to continue to grow outside of what we currently have. Let's finish the show with your expectations from. Well, actually, wait. Let's back up.
Okay.
Two huge cross country and track and field student athletes. One that's since graduated, and now one that's going into his senior season. Let's talk about Noel Malkamaki's Paralympic run and what that has been like to watch from your perspective, and then we'll go into Darius's senior season.
Well, Noel was really fun because it's so funny. Noel is the first student athlete at DePaul that I remember meeting. And it was actually at a Cubs game. And she was working, putting the wristbands on outside of one of the clubs. And she introduced herself and told me that she was a track and field athlete at DePaul. Keep in mind, we don't even have fall sports at this time. The season is just finishing. They have kind of opened up things look. So I was just trying to, check out what was going on. And to have her have all this success, I had no idea at the time I was meeting this superstar that's going to set world records, win Olympic goals. I mean, such a great personality in person. And she's in this transition now, trying to figure out the next step and how we're trying to help her tell her story because I think a lot of people were new to this story as she won Olympic gold and understanding her pathway to this and where it goes from here. And such an incredible young lady, a true testament to what hard work and preservation will do. And think about it for her, to go out there and every time, whether it's the world champions or the Olympic trials or the Olympic itself, and every time keep not only breaking records, but breaking her own record, right? That's hard to keep doing. And setting a new chapter for herself. And, and I love the fact that under pressure in those moments, she was always her best. So I miss her. She's been back a couple times for some visits after. I haven't had a chance to see her. I've been out of town a little bit. And I know she did, did some media and stuff here. And we got a big new picture on the wall of her and our other Olympians. And it's really cool just to have her around. She's going to be involved with some of our trustee meetings coming up here shortly. And what a story, what a individual to celebrate. And it was really fun getting up in the wee hours of the morning, trying to watch stuff on. Now I know everybody's around here's got Peacock because we're getting a chance to watch her live. But it was really fun and just being able to share some of those stories with everybody else.
Yeah, no, I definitely set my alarm a little early. And, it was fun to watch and fun to see her excel. Blue Demon abroad and winning a gold medal in the Paralympics. And let's talk about
Darius real quick. Obviously him being here one more year, one of the biggest smiles you're ever going to see walking around here, right? A kid from Louisville. We were at the women's basketball tournament last year when I Jill Hollenbeek, Taylor Stapleton drove up to Boston College to see him compete for that indoor championship and get a chance to be an All-American. I think it was the first time I met his mom, seeing how proud his family is to see him compete, and then to take that, go out there and qualify, get past the first heat in the Olympic qualifiers. It was like seventh youngest ever or something like that to get to that level. And you realize the kids got, my biggest thing was like, don't get poached while you're out there and end up in the transfer portal, because you're out there and people, if they don't know who you are, you got on all your DePaul stuff. You got to make sure we get this kid back. And, he's excited more than ever. He was one of the first people that we got a chance to walk into our new locker room spaces and the new weight room and training elements. And I think the best is yet to come with that young man. And maybe he'll be the next one to get a medal here soon. But he's just really just transformed from when he first got here to now. But it's also helping us lead others to see this program and what it's capable of, to be other people that want to follow his lead on both the men and women's side. And so just great representatives. Darius, along with Jory Allen on our women's basketball team, are kind of our Big East student athlete advisory committee reps. And so not only are they doing everything on the court, but off the court and field, being able to give back and be leaders among our students with some of our other executive leaders is really neat, because you get to really know those kids outside of competition.
Yeah, I think talking to Darius was one of my more fun conversations I've had. He's just he's a ball of energy, but I guess you have to be that to be a hurdler. So it was really great talking to him.
That sprint mentality it spreads out everywhere. You're right. You got to have ultimate confidence. He's always selling his merch, right? You always see stuff going on around and posts. He's very active on social media too. And so I think that's all comes with the package.
Yeah, it's good, and it's exciting to have those kinds of athletes in our other sports as well, and be able to support them as they spread their wings a little bit. All right, expectations for men's and women's basketball this year. I wanted to get your thoughts on that, as far as obviously Big East Media Day hasn't come yet, so we can't queue up your axe throw. But where are we going to be? What are we looking forward to?
I'll start on the women's side. I think finishing in the bottom part of the league is something that we don't want to get used to. Obviously UConn, the expectations with UConn and probably even Creighton, having most of that team back are pretty high. I want to see us back in those top teams in the league. We got to start making a step forward to be able to. As we get, we only losing one, Jory be the only person we're losing the eligibility. Now, we could have some change and turnover, but this got to be a step forward and really have even a second year of this group, not much change, to really take a chance to go start battling for trying to get back into the championship game of our tournament quality, right? Get back to some things I haven't seen since we've been here. But I think that's the goal for us. The league is really bunched together, right? I know we won't be picked first. I know we won't be picked last. But if you look at the teams, probably outside of, I'd say, UConn and Creighton, you could shuffle a bunch of teams up, because there's a few changes and some teams that have not had as big a success. Marquette gets a coaching change. Things start changing there too. So it's going to be a really good battle, especially in the last year that we don't play a round-robin schedule, because we're going back to the 20-game schedule with women next year. We don't play UConn but once. We play them at home. I'm not crying about that. But I think it's an opportunity to see how high we can go. But I really feel like for me, success is getting back in that top four of where we belong and start competing, getting back to competing for being in the NCAA tournament and getting a chance to be on, advancing in the Big East tournament, not losing the game and going home. We got to get back to that because that's where we belong. I would say, and Coach Bruno, just when I saw him last week, he's doing well from a just overall health standpoint. He's doing great, but we've got to get them back to this stressful environment of basketball and be able to handle the travel and everything that comes with it. But, Coach Pizzotti, being our associate head coach, being a former head coach at St. Louis, I mean, obviously working hand in hand with Coach Bruno, she's handling things. The team, like having veteran leadership, we're not missing a beat. But obviously, we're looking forward to having him back as soon as possible. I don't know if he'll be back in time for the exhibition game this weekend, but we hope to have him back, sooner than later. And we'll make sure we update people if we find out it's gonna be longer, we'll tell you. But right now, it's kind of day to day, week to week at best. And but we're more concerned about him and his health, and then we'll move forward. On the men's side, I'm anxious to play somebody, right? Because I feel like we're a lot better team because just the depth of talent. I love how the team has been put together and structured. I felt like we needed one more big, and I think Teo coming in has given us, he ended up coming on a little bigger than I thought, as a 16 kid. But it's a league in basketball nationally where probably everybody tells you they need one more big, all right? So it'll be interesting how we match up against different teams. I think we can throw a lot of things at you defensively. A lot of good team concepts. Brandon Bailey has come in as more of our defensive coordinator, and I mean, he really gets after it. I have to say positive things to him of how the defensive drills look, because he's probably going crazy because of what we didn't get done or didn't do every day. But I think for me, the expectation of our men's team is we should be in postseason. I think between the NCAA tournament, the Fox tournament, and NIT, I'm going to be greatly disappointed if we're not one of those teams that's playing in one of those three tournaments, right? And that's a big jump for us. It's not like that's a gimme. We've played in postseason, one time since 2007. So it's not like that's some easy kind of low-hanging fruit. That obviously means we got to be out of the cellar, and hopefully out of the next to cellar, right? I mean, right. But I don't want to dictate on that. I want us to keep playing, right? Because the goal in this year is create an identity, have a structure in place and a culture set for, we've got 2 commitments already, in tow. But when we're in the off season, we're still playing a little bit. Good thing that they moved the portal back anyway. So there's no advantages of finishing your season early. Right. We took advantage of that. By the time the portal opens, I'm hoping we're still, playing somewhere, whether that's, the NIT, the Fox tournament, or of course the NCAA. This is basketball, so you can't really determine what a bunch of 18 to 22 or some of them are 23, 24-year-olds can dictate. But I like the fact that I feel like we'll be we have a chance in every game, right? And then we want to increase that chance and not just having a puncher's chance. We want to get into some games where I want to get back to being favored in some Big East games. But I'm understanding enough, John. I mean, I probably didn't study the history enough, and maybe you wouldn't have got me. I might have got scared off by it. But Coach Holtman did. He knew all the history. He knew exactly what he was getting into. He spouting out all kinds of different stats to me about how many average games we won the Big East. I mean, how many times we've been above 500 since 2007. And, I mean, so he knows what he's getting himself into. So that's good. If you got one person that knows, it needs to be him, not me, because I'm the big picture guy. But, I do realize that there's some steps to this. But, man, I'm tired of losing. I'm hungry. So I feel like what I'm asking for doesn't feel like that much. But it could be, we go above 500 and we're in postseason. That could be one of the best seasons we've had in 20 years. But I think we deserve that, right? Sure. That's why we're putting all this time and effort into it. That's why we brought in a new staff and new team to make that leap. And so that's what my goal is on the men's side.
Well, I think a lot of people will definitely back you up on that, and I'm one of them. So I'm looking forward to the season. Thanks again for taking the time, as always, and look forward to Blue Madness on Friday night.
Can I leave one lasting thing, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So we got an opening. We play 7 games at home before we go on the road to Texas Tech. What I'm asking for Blue Demon Nation is to show up for these guys and the staff. Most of these folks have never even seen what Wintrust is like. Coach Holtman didn't even get the coach here, right? So, to show them what it can be. If you haven't bought season tickets, buy your single game tickets, take advantage, and get out there and see these kids play. We played 3 games against local teams in Northern, Eastern Illinois, and Valpo. But give us off to a good start. We need them. It's not promised to us. We saw what happened last year. get us off to a good start. Let's fill this arena with some excitement. Get started. The women's side, they're starting with elementary school days, so they're going to have some excitement. On the men's side, we need some people there, right? We need butts and seats. We need to know who's with us from day one of this Holtman era, right? I want you to be like, hey, I was at the first game. And then, of course, when you're at the last one, you're like, hey, I was there from day one. So come out, and really help us. I think we start on Monday, November 4th.
Yep.
It'll be here before you know it. And I'm looking forward to seeing all our Blue Demon friends and family and getting to meet some new ones. And so it's an exciting time. This is the start of a new era. Come out and enjoy it with us.
Thanks again, DeWayne, and I'll be there. I'll be at Wintrust.
All right. We got one family. All right, see what else we can bring. Let's go. Let's get this going.
Thanks again.
All right.
You heard it right there. Like I said, going into his interview, it's going to be different. There is a different feel around this team, and I'm excited to get out to Wintrust, as you all should be, to see them play that first game against Indiana Wesleyan and then continue on. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they fare up against Texas Tech, Northwestern, power conference teams. But you got a leader in Enright, you got a leader in Blocker, and you've got a lot of talent that has been there before, that knows how to win, that knows what it takes. You've got a great mix of old and new, guys to show guys the ropes, something to build a culture upon, something that we haven't had in Chicago for a long time. So, Blue Demon Nation, thanks for taking the time. Thanks for listening as always. Can't wait to finally get to meaningful basketball minutes. Until next time, go Blue Demons.